You definitely forgot about these trades that I'm going to be talking about in this video, as Montreal is still reaping the benefits from them years later, while the team on the other end is definitely regretting their decision. I'll be getting into that, plus a guy that the Habs passed on in the draft, Matvei Michkov, got benched in the KHL preseason. So I'll be talking about all of that on this edition of Habs Digest. But before we dive into those topics, just wanted to take a minute out of the video to say rest in peace to Yvon Pedneault. And if you guys watch any French Habs or even hockey media, you'll know of Yvon Pedneault. He spent a lot of time with TVA Sport, RDS, Radio-Canada, Journal de Montréal, La Presse, among others. Began his career at Progrès Dimanche in Chicoutimi in 1965, and the Premier of Quebec said, "We are losing a monument to hockey and sports journalism. A real enthusiast, a man who's always in a good mood, who had fun and amused us by describing the matches. Thank you for everything, Yvon Pedneault." And he did a lot of broadcasting, he did a lot of TV appearances, and if you're familiar with Yvon, which you probably should be as Montreal fans, you'll know that he made everything so much fun. Watching him made you laugh more often than not. He brought a passion to the game, a passion to announcing and commentating that isn't often found in a lot of sports media. He was able to make you laugh. He was able to make you smile while also bringing you all the relevant information. And you don't get to almost 60 years in this industry without that kind of passion. So, being a Habs media channel ourselves, I wanted to take just a minute out of this video to wish his family the best and say, rest in peace. Thank you, Yvon Pedneault. Let's get into the second topic of this video, and that's Matvei Michkov. Matvei Michkov got benched in the KHL preseason. Now, I'm going to show this tweet. It's Grant McCagg. Of course, he said Michkov played fewer than 8 minutes 2 games ago and fewer than 5 minutes last game, including just one shift in the second period after this turnover. He's not dressed for today's game. Having little control over development was one of the risks in drafting him. Now, I think this is a bit of an overreaction. There's two ways you can take this. Like, I understand, Grant, everyone wants the Habs to take Michkov. They didn't take Michkov. Let's go out of our way to highlight all the negatives of Michkov, because that's basically what's going on here, let's be honest. And it's preseason in the KHL. And, you might say, Michkov was drafted. He's a couple-year veteran in the KHL now, even though he's only 18. Maybe you just want to rest him in favor of younger players, but in my mind, it's not quite that. I think even in the KHL, you have an 18-year-old player, right, who is a star, a future superstar. And to me, those young players, what better time to play them than in the preseason, in these meaningless games, so they can, progress a little better, get their confidence heading into the season. Is this really a time where you're going to want to bench Matvei Michkov? And Grant is kind of right in the sense that, the Philadelphia Flyers at this point, actually, we'll talk about the Flyers a bit later in this video as well, but they don't have the control whether or not they can play Matvei Michkov in these preseason games. Do I think this is a bit of an exaggeration of the situation going on in the KHL? Maybe. But at the same time, again, there really is no better time to play him. And the fact he was benched specifically after turnovers, after some mistakes, it's maybe a little concerning if you're a Flyers fan. Now, does this still affect Montreal? No, Montreal didn't pick him. Montreal picked David Reinbacher. But for those of you Habs fans that are still enamored with Matvei Michkov and still very upset that the Habs passed on him, this might give you a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Maybe makes you think, oh, wait, maybe they did make the right decision in Reinbacher. But look, I wanted to also say, David Reinbacher has been getting so much praise recently. Not only has the Montreal fan base really embraced him in general, but his teammates, his former coaches are saying things. There was a quote just today from about David Reinbacher saying he's a student who learns the things that you don't even teach him. He's one of those guys that just learns by being on the ice. He sees something happen. You don't have to tell him what it is. He's like, oh, I know how to handle this now. So again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this whole Matvei Michkov, David Reinbacher thing is really old at this point and it's kind of stale. But at the same time, it is an interesting update on Michkov. So for those of you that are still interested in Michkov's development, maybe keep an eye on what's going on over in the KHL. But the main thing in this video, and I think the most fun thing in this video, let's talk about these trades that you guys definitely forgot about. Now, I said I was going to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. And the Philadelphia Flyers and the Montreal Canadiens have a bit of history with some trades. But here are some trades that you 100% forgot about, because I did too. And I feel like I'm pretty tuned into the Habs, but let's take a look. It's a 3-step trade. Here's what the Flyers allowed the Habs to do. Part 1 out of 3. In 2017, Montreal traded their 2018 7th for Philadelphia's 2017 7th. So they said, hey, we'll give you our 7th next year, and we want yours this year. They said, okay. So then they drafted Cayden Primeau, a guy who has played games in the NHL and is predicted to still play probably a couple more games with Montreal this year and is their number 1 goalie in Laval. Part 2 of 3. In 2018, the next year now, Montreal reclaimed their 2018 7th from the Flyers in exchange for a 7th round pick in 2019. So they said, hey, can we just do the same thing we did last year, except just take our pick back? They said, sure. They drafted Brett Stapley. Now, Brett Stapley hasn't quite done anything for Montreal, but hey, that's fine. But par 3 out of 3. In 2019, Montreal once again reclaimed their 2019 7th. So the year after year, Montreal's like, give me that 7th back, and give me it back again, and give me it back again. And they gave him a 7th in 2020. And who did they pick in 2019 but Raphael Harvey-Pinard? Over 3 years, the Habs acquired Cayden, Primeau, Brett Stapley, and Raphael Harvey-Pinard, and the Flyers didn't draft anyone in the 7th round. Clearly, the Flyers should pay more attention to their 7th round selection, and kudos to the Canadiens for capitalizing on it. And this, to me, is kind of insane. Like, we know, Harvey-Pinard, late round pick, he played for the Habs, and Cayden Primeau, late round pick, he's still a promising goalie, right? But what we kind of forget is these trades here, like, when you see a 7th round pick getting traded, your immediate gut reaction is that doesn't matter, right? Like, who cares? These 7th round picks are not going to be players, but that's not always the case. There are lots and lots of late round draft picks that thrive in the NHL. Now, maybe not 7th rounders, but you look at someone like a Pavel Datsyuk, super late, right? Henrik Lundqvist. These guys are drafted late in the draft, and they end up being superstars. Now, I'm not saying that every 7th round pick is, no, but it's worth considering, especially if you're a team like Montreal whose scouting department is saying, like, listen, like, I think this guy could be good. Like, why not just, let's keep swapping with the Flyers, right? And the Flyers are like, sure, we don't care. The Flyers take that nonchalant approach. They're like, it's a 7th round pick. Who cares? Sure, take it. We'll take yours next year. It doesn't matter. This is never going to pay dividends. But this is a good point for, if you're in the NHL draft, you got to go for the guy that you want, especially in the later rounds. While I'm still an advocate for best player available early in the first round, we're not going to talk about this year, but hey, you know what? I'm a big Reinbacher fan now. It's fine. But if you have a guy on your board and they're there, no matter what pick it is, whether it's the 2nd round, 4th round, 7th round, you make that move and go for it, because a lot of other teams might just say, who cares? And look how it paid off for Montreal. Cayden Primeau, like I said, the number 1 goalie in Laval, and while he really hasn't shown much promise at the NHL level, being a number 1 AHL goalie is still a very good achievement for a 7th round pick. Because if you look at the draft, most people after like the 5th round barely even play in the AHL, if at all, right? ECHL, or they go to Europe or something like that. Not even in the system. While Primeau is like a mid-20s goalie who still has maybe some NHL potential left in him. And Raphael Harvey-Pinard, he played on the first line last year. Will he this year? Probably not. But at the same time, right, just goes to show, if you have a guy on your board, you got to just go after them, because you just never know. So Philadelphia, thank you for those 3 7th round picks. Thank you for Raphael Harvey-Pinard. And hey, best of luck with the Matvei Michkov situation. That'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. And quick reminder at the end, rest in peace to Yvon Pedneault, absolute legend in the Habs media industry. We want to pay our respects here as well. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000. We really appreciate your support. I'm Josh Gosse. I'll catch you in the next one.